Friends, today we're taking a deeper dive into Make Cosmetics that I featured in my recent October favorites. And I encountered Make Cosmetics years ago, and I think it was one of their foundation advertisements where they claimed they could match you to the T from online references and all that. And I tried it. I went through their questionnaire and what foundation shade are you in this brand and that brand? What's your undertone? La la la. I received it. It was fine, but there was a fragrance and the color was okay. The match was not completely there. And yes, my expectations weren't met completely, and I decided to return it. Of course, I made sure to read their return policy before actually trying, or rather purchasing, their foundation. And then recently, Make Cosmetics offered an opportunity to request some PR on the Shop My platform. And when I saw the brand, I was like, oh, I know Make Cosmetics. And I also saw them featured on Nikki LaRose's channel. I think it was one of their single eyeshadows that was a blingity blinged out. I didn't request that one. I requested a lovely one. It didn't have the level of dazzle that Nikki LaRose's shadow that she showed had, but I love it nonetheless. So I decided to give the brand another shot and actually take some time in understanding what the brand is, what their philosophy is, when they started, so I could have a better grasp of the products, the formulas, again, understanding their aesthetic so I could better understand their lineup. So we'll start with, what is Make Beauty? Make Beauty launched in 2013 by Ariana Muyaris, daughter of cosmetics industry veteran Nikos Muyaris. It's described as, quote, in many ways a predecessor to the Glossiers of the world, thanks to millennial packaging, creative voice, modern formula positioning. The website emphasizes modern, multifunctional makeup and skincare design for creative self-expression and personal experimentation, and they highlight their luxury formulations with biotech ingredients and amplified pigmentation. They are a brand that intersects makeup and skincare, and probably one of the brands, as it reads here, to pioneer that concept. Now, I'm not entirely sure if they were early on or where on the timeline Make Cosmetics landed when brands were trying to push this makeup skincare fusion into the market. But with that approach, they want to emphasize creative self-expression and experimentation rather than just covering up or camouflaging, which is probably why, especially as we'll see in the Diffusion Dew, it's more of a tint, as well as their, I think it's called the Mimetic Skin Mimetic Concealer. It's there to enhance, not necessarily cover up completely, so your own beauty can shine through with a little bit of boost from Make Cosmetics. And you'll see also that many of these products are manufactured in South Korea, in the US, so they definitely have comprehensive manufacturing within the brand, which makes it interesting also because a lot of these countries are trying new innovative formula technology introduced into the beauty market. So again, not so much just straightforward foundation, straightforward concealer, but with those skincare benefits in the mix. And I have a bare face because as I run you through the B-roll as well as the product details, I wanted to also demonstrate any new discoveries I made in applying these products, because I have been using them for the last 2 weeks and I quite enjoy what I picked out. In addition, Make also develops skincare. So they have their makeup and they have their skincare products, and all fairly reasonably priced. We're looking at $20, $24, $14, and their skincare packaging looks pretty cool with like the holographic finish on the bottles. But let's head over to complexion, which is where I would like to begin. Friends, coming at you from the kitchen to add this video note, if you will, I will gush about Make's Diffusion Dew, as I did in my latest October phase video. But I wanted to add this video note because text on the video would not have been enough to explain in full, and that is the Diffusion Dew, given that it's called a radiant skin tint, does have these little glimmer sparkles in there that I didn't notice until Sunday morning when I applied it on my face. I prepped it back of hand, and when I wiped my hand to get the residue off, I was like, there's sparkle on my hand. did I not clean my brush properly? And then I realized that the Diffusion Dew does have like this iridescent-like ingredient in the formula that does leave behind those type of glimmer sparkles that I liken to what's found in the Dior translucent nude filter powder that's supposed to be the universal shade, but it does have like those glimmers in there, as well as from their bronzer line that comes in matte and radiant, but the radiant powder is still a matte powder, but it has like the glimmers in there. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's that same exact effect, but it's in the Diffusion Dew. It's not a make or break for me. I will continue using the product because I quite like it, but I wanted to mention that and put it in the video because that might be a deal breaker for you. And I don't want to lead you astray, especially as I like gushed about this product, how it's wonderful. And yes, my thoughts remain the same in terms of the texture, in terms of how the Diffusion Dew makes my skin look. I love all those, but the glimmers. Didn't notice the glimmers, but again, will still use it. Not a huge deal breaker for me, but if you do not like that, I'm saying you loathe that finish, probably won't like this product. Okay, back to the video. And introducing the Diffusion Dew Radiant Skin Tint. This retails for $32. It is made in South Korea. We have 1 fluid ounces or 30 milliliters of product. It says here, the next generation skin tint features skin mimicking pigments that add radiant coverage while blurring, smoothing, and brightening. Sheer yet buildable, this lightweight product is formulated with added niacinamide and adenosine to enhance skin for a glowing, healthy looking complexion. I could have went in with Honey 07, but I was afraid that it would have been just too dead on of a match, and Caramel 08 definitely provides like a complexion boosting element because it is on the warmer side for sure. We shall see. Maybe I can request Honey from the brand to see if it's a better skin match for me, but because it is a tint, it is quite forgiving in terms of the skin match, right? You don't have to be as accurate as if you were to pick out a medium to high coverage foundation. And what I adore about this formula, and I'd mentioned in my October favorites as well, is that stretch feel to the texture. It kind of feels like you're putting on pantyhose on your face in the most comfortable, delightful way. And it has, again, that lightweight feel on the skin while evening out the skin tone and blurring out the blemishes, but your skin still appearing as itself. That diffusing quality about it. And I understand you see the word radiant and you might have some uncertainty there, because if you sit on the more normal combination oily part of the skin condition spectrum, sure, this might not last long on you as someone with my skin type, which is more normal to dry. Maybe you could go in with like Danessa's Blurring Balm Universal first and then follow up with the Diffusion Dew Skin Tint. But I think Make markets this to be for all skin types, but you might have to adjust the application on your part. And something I like to do is apply it straight to skin. I do an entire pump, and this is how much product comes out in one pump. And you can see immediately how it gives me that golden undertone. I don't usually like to apply makeup with my fingers because then I have to wash my fingers, but there's no fragrance. And again, it just has this nice flexible texture to the application where it feels lovely to apply. And I know you're like, oh boy, Alicia, you look orange. I look orange on camera because of the lighting, but in person, it balances out to be not as gold orange leaning, and my face matches my body. For sure. Like I had said, Honey is probably a better match for me now as we approach the autumn winter season, because I will not appear as tan anymore, and Caramel 08 will probably be a little too warm and golden for when my skin naturally will start to lighten up a bit as I lose my tan. It just feels lovely on the skin. It does feel like a skincare product, as if I'm applying moisturizer, but I guess I gotta bring you in a little closer. Now here's a close-up of the Radiant Skin Tint. You can see that there's like a bounce to the skin. It feels elastic and it doesn't feel heavy, although I probably would have went in with less. This was just to show you how much product you get from one pump. I think you could get away with half a pump. And if I wanted to adjust the color a little bit, what I have been doing is combining it with Prada Beauty's Skin Reveal in MN60. This is far more neutral than the Diffusion Dew, and those colors balance each other out. And the Prada Reveal I liken to a skin tint, although it does provide more coverage than sheer to light. I would say more light to medium. You could build it up. It has the same skincare element as the Make Diffusion Dew, and I think they pair well together, especially if I do half a pump from each. And you'll see they have different bundles on their complexion page where you could buy the Diffusion Dew on its own, or you could purchase it with a brush. And they also have their own brushes, which look to be synthetic. I'm not entirely sure if the synthetic fibers are PBT or MCF, which stands for micro crystal fiber. Sorry to get that out, which is a more advanced filament because they have the engineered ridging on the strands. But let's move on to the next complexion product so we can finish off the face. Is the Skin Mimetic Concealer Radiant Buildable Coverage. Retails for $28, 0.26 ounces, and I believe this is made in the US. So 07 medium N is the color I chose, which still appears a little golden. So probably I could have went in with, let's see, 06 medium O, medium to tan with olive undertones. I just wasn't sure if the olive was going to look a little off under the eyes. So if you're my skin tone, skin twin, you can try 07 medium, but the vial is quite nicely designed. You have this window here that looks into the components. You have the same soft matte brush look to the cap, and the doe foot applicator is quite large. I guess you could say adequately so, with this groove in the doe foot, so there's a lot of product that pulls out, right? And you can see that it's on the slightly more yellow side, but in terms of lightness, appropriate for my under eyes. This actually won an Allure Beauty Expert Award, and as well as a Birdie Award. Wow! This concealer provides buildable medium coverage with a radiant finish, formulated with skin mimicking pigments, red algae, and adenosine, so hard to say. It blends seamlessly into the skin to conceal and correct while hydrating, ideal for spot coverage or layering over foundation. Can also be used as a highlighter or contour. I probably won't be using or asking for a contour shade, as it has been quite some time since I used concealer for those tasks. But you can see the radiance immediately once I blend this concealer out. And if you want to cut down on the shine, then I will follow up with powder. But I wouldn't buy this concealer if that's not your gig. And immediate comparisons that come to mind: the Gucci concealer, which is self-setting, definitely offers more of a soft matte finish to the skin, and if you prefer that under the eyes, it doesn't look dry, which is why it's phenomenal, then I would stick to the Gucci if you already have that. The Burberry concealer that I also use is creamier than the Gucci, but still not as radiant as the Make. The Make is quite radiant. As you can see, there is definitely shine under the eyes, but some people like that. Some people like to have that radiant finish on the under eye area, as formulas such as these definitely more forgiving to drier skin that sits under the eyes, and naturally is going to have more of like that radiant effect, which naturally deflects from uneven tone discoloration on the under eye area, and it's quite nice. I mean, my skin looks luscious. Again, I know not for everyone, but I actually follow up with the powder. I don't mind powdering a little bit under the eyes. And what do I have on standby to powder with? Hold on one second. Because of the Sephora sale that's going on, I had reintroduced the Givenchy Prisme Libre 4-color powder. But let me quickly scan the complexion page here. Make Beauty does offer the translucent pressed powder. I will be open to trying that. The diffusion set, ultra soft refillable Yes. Translucent setting powder, not this. Formulated with microsphere powders and a mineral complex that sets foundation and concealer while absorbing excess oil for a smoother looking application. Biotech-derived algae helps balance the complexion applied to any areas you want to mattify all over. So it appears that this would pair nicely with the concealer in that they're meant to still have the skin appearing radiant, luminous without looking dry. But the Givenchy ain't bad with the Make concealer. That's actually quite nice. Now, something you might have noticed is because of the radiant finish, the concealer won't be as high coverage as you might have experienced with others. But I don't mind because I don't have extreme darkness and discoloration under the eyes, so this works well for me. And I quite like the color. It's brightening, but it's not too neutral, but it also doesn't look artificial where it's too light under the eye, so we're doing good. Moving on to this brow pencil. Now I'm kicking myself because Make offered 2 PR opportunities to pick like from their main line and from their brow line, and I could have used the brow PR to ask for a brow pencil and their brow gel, which on the way, but I chose to pick the brow pencil when I could have picked another blush stick. But it's okay because I actually needed a new brow pencil, so it was timely. The Infinite Brow Nano Pencil in Cool Brown retails for $20, made in South Korea. Ultra precise micro brow pencil creates thin hair-like strokes for natural looking fullness and dimension. The ultra fine tip allows for precise control with high color payoff for defined and sculpted brows. This is probably the thinnest brow pencil I have ever used. It is thinner than the Benefit Micro Pencil what is it called again? The tiniest one. And you already saw it in the footage, but this is tiny. Look at that. It's tiny, but it's not super dry. It has great grip and adherence to the skin, and it is satisfying to use. Another feature I love is the color. Cool brown, I adore because sometimes the browns are a little too warm or they're a little too ashy. Although if I had to choose, I would go with ashy brown than I would even with a neutral brown, because when drawn in, the overall brow color tends to shift to like warm brown, and I want to stay in as close to my brow color, natural color as possible, but I also don't want to darken the browns more because then it appears too high contrast with the rest of my makeup, especially if I'm not going high glam. But what makes it just remarkable is the small pencil, but the fact that it lays down color well and is not too creamy where it slips all over the place. Although I would be careful with how much you dial up because it is on the smaller side and I don't want it to break while I'm using it, and why I'm applying pretty light pressure. But that's the thing, you don't need a lot of pressure. It lays down more color in my opinion than the Benefit pencil. The Precisely My Brow, that's what it's called. Thank you, memory. This is smaller than the Precisely My Brow, but you can get more precise with how you draft the brows. And I've been loving it because I finished using my VBB brow pencil, my Benefit Goof Proof that I abandoned, replacing it with the VBB brow pencil is nearly done. So I thought, okay, this is a great opportunity for me to try something new. And compared to the Suku brow pencil, the Suku brow pencil is definitely drier. This lays down a little more color, is a little creamier, but it's not as slippy as the VBB brow pencil. So that's why I enjoy this texture. And again, the color is fantastic. It's not too warm, not too ashy cool. And now their brow gel is on the way, so I am excited to try this with the brow pencil or just see what the brow gel does in cool brown on its own if I just wanted a quick fluff and go. But that's not too bad, right? I like it. Now we go. Okay, so perhaps one of my most favorite products that I requested from Make, has to be without a doubt their blush stick. They have two formulas. They have the cream stroke, which is the soft matte finish, and that comes in 5 colors, but the heat stroke, the dewy gel skin tint, and that retails for $30. This is made in Italy. We love it. Reminds me of Pat McGrath's Color Balm color sticks that released, blush sticks that released a few years ago. But the Heat Stroke Dewy Gel Skin Tint comes in, I think, like 12 or 14 colors. That's why I wanted to try the Dewy, because they had more color options. And I had a hard time, family. I did, because I saw Spice on the models, the deep pinky nude, and I thought that was a lovely, although described as pinky nude, it's a nice rose. They do have a warm rose, but I think Spice is one of like the rare pinks that does well on my complexion. And I was looking at Toasted, the warm light brown. I think I want to chat message Make and ask if they could send me Toasted, because I'm dying to see that shade in action. But as you had already seen on the footage, Spice is a lot of fun, and it's a great color to wear if I just need to go and have something on the cheeks. And yes, it is on the dewy side, but it's not super sticky. It actually has a nice feel on the skin. Although, yes, you can just go in with the fingers as you saw on the footage and as you see me doing now, but I don't think you get as high of a color payoff as if you would with a brush application. And you see here that I'm taking it directly from the stick. You could also prep this on back of hand and take that swatch with the brush. So we could prep it like so. And this allows for the bristles to take up the product evenly distributed. So when you lay it down on the cheeks, that has an even lay down of color. And you see how it's a nice pink. Yes, I don't usually go for the pinks. And you might be quite surprised that I chose this color over the light brown, but it's fine. I would still love to try other colors because I like the size of the stick. It doesn't take up much room if I wanted to pack it up, or if I wanted to pack up 2. The texture is nice, and there has been no fragrance. No fragrance in the Diffusion Dew, not even like a product smell. You might detect a little bit of the product smell during application, but it fades. It doesn't stay like the Lisa Eldridge Skin Tint scent does, unfortunately. There's no scent on the concealer, and there's no scent on the blush stick. And here's a close-up in how it appears on the Diffusion Dew. Now keep in mind, we got Diffusion Dew Radiant, we got Dewy Ooey Blush Sticks. So these textures will naturally leave behind, as you can see, a more luminous finish on the skin. If that's not for you, you might want to check out their soft matte finish, but the soft matte doesn't come in as many shades as the dewy one does. But that doesn't mean I can try and pick out a nice kind of like pink shade, because I would probably go with Major Mauve, or of course, Rouge Moon. Rouge Moon is, I think, what they describe as their berry plum. So that could be lovely. It'll be interesting to compare textures, right? And they offer a duo if you wanted to try one of each. They also have a micro suede blush. I would like to try that as well. And their micro suede bronzer. And the bronzer and blush, well, the blush retails for $28 and the bronzer retails for $32. Not bad. So maybe I can request to try those products as well. But as far as the blush stick, I like it. And the reason I do is, yes, although I don't see any highlight products from Make here, at least not on the cheek page, but I like how my cheekbones are prepped for something like the Dior Backstage. As I demonstrated in my October faves video, I could just go in because now the skin is prepped from that more dewy finish in the texture. It definitely has like a nice creamy feel to the skin and allows something like the Backstage Glow palette to apply in an even manner where it doesn't look too gritty or just kind of off, if that makes sense. Especially if you are having a hard time with a texture like this, because if you applied the Backstage powders on dry skin, I don't think you'll be happy, right? I can even follow up with their holiday highlighter. This right here, I'm telling you, with these slightly drier crystal finish textures on dewy cheekbones, sign me up. Fun fact, I am starting to film this portion 2 hours from when I apply the Diffusion Dew, the concealer, and the dewy stick. And you can see how these products are settling onto the skin. I look a little shiny, and I just wanted to kind of demonstrate how these products behave, because if something radiant and luminous like the dew, the Diffusion Dew, and the concealer, as well as the dewy stick, not up your alley, but I do have Danessa's blurring balm spray on standby. Maybe we can influence how these products now look with the help of the blurring balm spray. You could also set it. And you might be asking, well, what's the point of purchasing something that's dewy and radiant when you set it? I think you will establish perhaps more of a natural skin finish when setting something that's more radiant. And using a powder, perhaps that's not super matte, will kind of help achieve like that just right finish on the skin if you want to go that route. I know it can feel confusing and counterintuitive to take those steps, but I say why not? Because if you like the texture of the tint, but you want to follow up with the powder anyway, why not? Unfortunately, I don't have a lip product for the demo, but we can add one at the end. So we'll wrap up with the Multi-Chromatic Metal Reflecting Eyeshadow in Fusion, and this product is made in Italy. It's a single shadow that retails for $24, and it says here, this highly pigmented multi-chrome eyeshadow adds luminous color to eyes with a foiled metallic finish. Formulated with special treated micas, reflective pearls, and conditioning lipids that provide a creamy texture for buildable dimensional eye looks. 18 shades, and I picked Fusion because that was the neutral brown. I actually had my eye on what I think was described as maybe the rose gold. I thought there might have been like a burgundy moment in here. They do have the bronze and the taupe, but I thought Fusion, as you saw me wear it in my October favorites video, was a lovely color, and the fact that it just gave me immediate smoke and how easy it was to pick up and apply, I thought was extraordinary. And I'll use, well, I gotta get the brush. Hold on. I used Sonia's T5. I can't recall the number. It's from her Kiyaki Kakishibu line, but it's more of a flat, kind of soft on the edges. This is her T8 brush, and more barrel shaped and larger. Now, I would typically start with primer, but I don't know if I'll be wearing this for long. But again, just so you can see the texture of the shadow, pretty cool. You have like this speckled pattern in the pan, and my gosh, right? It is shiny, it is smooth, it feels buttery, it's creamy, and the color is absolutely gorgeous. It is that perfect dead-on chocolate bronze, which I will now proceed with. And I'm thinking, yes, I love spice on the cheeks for sure, but to have that light brown dewy blush stick with what I had on the lip, Rumbling Storm, that monochromatic look. I probably have a blush that mimics the light, warm, light brown. But take a look at how this eyeshadow is just moving and grooving. Isn't that pretty? This reminds me actually of Pat's old metallic formula, the one that debuted in Mothership 4 Decadence. My goodness, that sold out so quickly because those metallic textures were just beautifully smooth and perform similarly as I see here, that it has crazy color laid down, but the edges look smooth and airbrushed. And this is what I would do actually. And you probably saw in the first set of footage that I experimented with applying Fusion in a diffused manner along my top lash line. And I'm thinking that would have been really nice with a VBB liner, which I've actually been experimenting with, and I'm planning on filming a short demonstrating how I layer VBB liners, meaning I'll go in with like the medium terracotta shade, I'll blur that up from the lash line, and then I'll follow up with cocoa for more definition. And because the textures for that pencil is so soft, it just creates an easy gradient. I mean, just by default, because of the softer pencil texture. And the eye look, I can't wait to show you. I was so excited. This is Refer's Shoto. I forgot the number of this little Shoto brush. My apologies, it's no longer available, but it is small enough for lower lash line placement that doesn't appear too hazy, just enough haze. This color I adore, and I don't mind it appearing almost like tired looking eyes, because this is what I'm going for in terms of the smoke effect. But I hope you can see how easy this shadow is to pick up. Now, it is quite tight in the pan. I don't think you'll be happy with using a soft brush with this type of a texture. If you use a synthetic brush, I would use one that's on the stiffer side with a medium density to get enough product on the eyes and also move it on the skin successfully. This is Kakeshibu dyed goat hair, and it's dense enough where it'll pick up enough shadow, but will also move it successfully. Isn't that pretty? I love it. Now, you could do one of two things. You could leave it as is and just kind of enjoy that metal finish that's left behind on the lids. But what I did in the first demo is I took the Backstage Glow Palette, the extra sparkly shade that's on the drier side, but on top, like that palette has a mirror, excuse me, but on top of a surface like the multi-chromatic shadows, look how well that adheres to the eyes. I think it is lovely. So you have a little more dimension on the eyes, especially if you wanted a more potent dazzle effect occurring on the lid. I could have done the same thing with the Dior highlighter, but I wanted to demonstrate now with one of Danessa's Colorfix sticks, specifically from the foil side. The foil side, yes, because this actually I think will be quite pretty on top of the chromatic shadow. And I'm lightly tapping because, man, this stick goes a long way and it could actually look quite sparkly arcly. So I'm taking a little bit and placing it on the eyes. The stick can become quite soft, so I don't want to pick up so much where it starts to look textured on the lids. But here you go. So the foil side is definitely going to have more of a wet effect look on the lids versus from what you get in the Backstage palette. The Backstage palette might give you more of like a demi wet shine effect. But see, I picked up a little too much of the flakies because now with the lid texture, it's not a flattering look. But we are gently moving the foil around. Okay, that's a lot better. Yes, yes, yes. I do want to follow up with one of VBB's pencils. Now, I know this is a Make Cosmetics video, but if you don't know, I love to cocktail and combine. But just to quickly go over, Make does offer a liquid liner as well as their waterproof gel liner. Also, their eye shaping stylo, the cream matte eye stick, looks intriguing. Probably will offer a similar experience to the VBB liners. So I do have an opportunity to try their liners. But if you're like myself and have a few products from Make, but you have other makeup in your collection, I would like to go in with this liner just to create more of a contrast along the lash line. And this is for a thicker lash line look, especially since if you want to follow up with mascara. And actually, I want to take that same small Shoto brush and start moving the pencil around. And this is a great brush to work with the texture that's found in the VBB because the pencil texture is so soft, but because the brush is beyond wispy, it won't pick up product from the lash line. It'll leave it there, but will move the color and it will still appear mostly color rich. Now I just want to report, we got a little bit of gathering here of concealer. So this is from my glasses, because my glasses, the frame is quite large, and you see how the bottom of the frame comes in contact with my cheeks, and why with wear tests you'll see that there's like a splotchiness here that settles on the center of my face. That's because of my glasses. Because I didn't wear my glasses in the last 2 hours, you didn't really see that, but you do see a little bit of gathering of that concealer. So it's a nice texture, but probably one that I won't wear often because I need something that's a little more durable, that's going to withstand wear of glasses. And also, despite how normal to dry my skin can get, can withstand any oil breakthrough or potential product breakdown. To address that, however, I'll just carefully use my soft concealer brush to buff away that texture. And there we go. We're done. Now, something I would like to do before we choose a lip to finish the look with is go in with my Prism powder and lightly set here, center of the face. And as I described before, now that offers a lovely finish on the cheeks where it won't appear so dry because you're already starting so luminous that adding a powder will just kind of keep it in that natural realm in terms of how it appears. I do want to follow up with a little bit more blush, and this is a great step to take to offset the dewiness of whatever product that you might have. It doesn't necessarily have to be the Make Dewy stick, is to powder the cheeks first and then follow up with your cream blush product. Having powder on the skin first will anchor the dewy texture, so not only will it appear more color rich, but also will probably appear more even as it wears throughout the day, because having that layer of powder is going to combat any oil breakthrough and just help the color appear more even, and it won't succumb to that product breakdown that naturally happens when you have it on an oilier surface or when you start to sweat or what have you. But I think that's nice. We're doing good. What should we do for the lip? Now, I did plop on Rumbling Storm. But maybe we can do something a little bit different because the eyes are smoky and we have that little sparkly but I'm actually gonna whip this foil around because, okay, I flaked off a good portion of it because I didn't like how it just looked flaky flat on my lids. I prefer a more scatter effect, kind of what's happening on the Dior side. So we fixed that. I gotta apply some lashes, but again, we gotta figure out what will I do with the lip. No. I love this. I love the Tom Ford, but that's more like if I wanted a no makeup look. What if we went beige? What would happen, Because having a super neutral lip, almost there. Maybe I can go more rosy brown. This is Anastasia Beverly Hills matte lipstick in Spice. That could work. I have to put lashes on. Maybe that will bring it together more than how it's appearing now. Let me take a look in the mirror because sometimes I get distorted with just a viewfinder. That's not bad. You know what? I might have to just slap on Rumbling Storm again because I think having the darker lip brings everything together in a more like confident fashion, right? Like, here we are. Well, just to change it up, I could instead go in with the Sequin Lip Duo from Dior in Magic. And that's probably a good idea because then I could do the lip rub sparkle demonstration right here on camera. Oh yeah. And yes, if I had like a brown type of a situation on the cheeks, that would have been gorgeous, not only here, but in my October vid as well. But having a little bit of pink on the cheeks, I think is nice. It's nice to have like a true flush moment when everything is a little darker on the eyes and the lip. You see the sparkle? Isn't it lovely? Do we want to add the gloss? I think I like it matte with what's happening here. So let's slap on these lashes and I'll be right back with my final thoughts. And here are the close-ups from my demonstration using the Make Cosmetics Selects from PR. And I'm quite happy with these products. Do I love other products in my collection more? Yes, I would probably reach for my Gucci concealer over the Make concealer, but I do happily integrate the Diffusion Dew into my foundation routine, or I would just exclusively use the foundation, or excuse me, the Diffusion Dew for like a one and done tint look. As much as I love the texture of the Diffusion Dew, however, because if you are thinking about the Gucci tint, as well as there was another tint that I felt like I used, but I can't recall. Even the Prada Reveal, I would place it in the same category. I prefer the Gucci tint because it does offer more coverage and it's longer lasting because it's not a radiant finish type of a formula, and I think it will have better holding power for longer hours versus the Diffusion Dew. But the reason why I'm still hanging on to Diffusion Dew is because I just think the texture is delightful. It's satisfying to use, and the skin-like luminous radiance that's left behind is hard to ignore. I can't put it back. I can't keep it on the shelf. So Diffusion Dew is great. The concealer is fine. I do enjoy the texture, but I recognize that it has to be set or else it'll break down fairly quickly. But I know that it might be a favorable texture to those who do suffer from drier under eyes and might find some relief in using a product that doesn't latch onto that texture, but kind of blurs it just because the nature of the formula is diffusing and radiant in nature. The blush stick is phenomenal. Now, is it better than the Dior or even the Sochi? I can't compare those because they're different finishes. However, I can compare it to the Pat McGrath Dewy Stick as well as the House Labs. The House Labs, you know why I didn't reach out to the brand to ask for toasted? Because I have cinnamon. Glassy cinnamon is probably a color I could use with this monochromatic look. Never mind. I still want to compare them for science. But the House Lab stick is great. I think they are similar in performance. They're both color rich. They both build up well. They both don't have any scent or strange fragrance, even like a strange product smell, and the texture is similar. It's definitely more on the glassy dewy skin side and might not yield as much color richness as like something like the Sochi and the Dior soft filter liquid blush, but I think a comparable formula to the House Labs for sure. It probably just comes down to which shades you like better from the brands, right? But when House Labs released those bronzer shades, I mean, they knocked it out of the park. Glassy Cinnamon was featured in one of my summer favorite videos, and I could easily use that for this look if I wanted to keep it all in like the brown cinnamon terracotta category of things. The brow pencil I love. Now, again, while I was using it for the last week or so, make sure you don't dial this up so high because if you apply too much pressure, it could snap. Right? So that's something you might have to deal with, which I guess is like a con, if you will, that you just have to dial up as you draft because the pencil does shave down fairly quickly as you move the pencil through your brows, right? But if you dial it up too high while sketching, because it is so thin, it could snap. Those are just kind of some logistics you got to figure out for yourself. But in terms of the texture, the pencil performance, and the color, check marks across the board. The shadow, I love. Look how hazy and smoky my eyes look. I know I added some stuff to this little guy, but overall, the feel, the vibe, and the aesthetic of the eye is largely due to the shadow. The ease of pickup, how it just blends like butter on the skin. And yes, it does break down fairly quickly because I read the word lipid in there. And the implications of that, a little more oily and therefore will be more susceptible to breaking down faster than like a Master Makeup by Mario Master Mattes or even a Giorgio Armani eye tint type of a formula, right? So definitely I would use the Linda Hallberg Till the End primer, something till the end of time. What is it called? Till the End Eye Primer Crease No More. I started recently using this again and it is fantastic and will definitely help with something that's a little more zhuzhy to last longer on the lids, especially if you have oily lids. And it does play well with other products. I love how when we applied, like you're doing this with me, of course you are, the Dior Backstage shadow or powder, if you will, on the lids. We did the foil from the Danessa Colorfix sticks. We added a little bit of VBB along the lash line for some smoke and intensity. And the lip, can't go wrong with this freaking liquid lip. I didn't apply the gloss side. You want to see it with the gloss? Why not? The pink sparkle in the liquid lip actually matches quite nicely with the pink shade that's on the cheeks. You know what I mean? I love how this looks. This is probably has easily become like a go-to November harvest look. Soft, hazy, smoky eye with like the vampy goth lip. Not too bad with the flush cheeks. I think having pink on the cheeks versus something that resembles what's on the eyes and or lips, I think is what adds the charm, because if it's all monochromatic, it might look maybe a little too editorial, or maybe not. I don't know. I have to try it out. But I enjoy these products. A huge thank you to Make Cosmetics for allowing me the opportunity to try their line. And I'm happy that I did a little bit of research to better understand, again, their brand philosophy and aesthetic. And I would like to try more. I would like to try their pressed powder. I would love to try another shade in the Diffusion Dew. Again, I would happily use both shades and cocktail them to death. So I'll make sure that I don't waste it. But I'll be happy to donate my Caramel 08 to someone who's watching if I end up liking honey more and you don't mind fostering a product that I'm giving away. I'll be happy to give it away to someone that would happily use all of it if they're maybe like a shade darker or even a shade warmer than I am. As well as the concealer, I'll keep using the concealer a little bit more, but probably a product that I won't. If I were to repurchase, probably won't. I'll more likely to repurchase the eyebrow pencil. Get another one of those singles. Oh, but singles are a pain, as you know, because I don't like to carry around all those compacts, but would choose a shade that performs similarly to Fusion. The one and done shade that's going to give you that high impact eye, but still easy to achieve, and just this is what's happening. And the blush stick, of course, I would love to try one of their soft matte formulas as well as another shade from their Dewy line. And that is it, my friends. Let me know if you tried Make Cosmetics before, if you have any favorites. I would love to know down below. And if you made it this far, make sure you like this video by clicking that thumbs up. It helps me tremendously in letting the YouTube algorithm know that I'm fun to watch, and will now continue recommending my videos to you to watch, and will now probably recommend to other beauty enthusiasts such as yourself. And consider subscribing. If I happen to drop another video, which I will, you'll know when that upload drops immediately, especially when you click that notification bell. Of course, if you are a returning subscriber, I appreciate the watch. Thank you for taking the time. But if it's your first time here, please stay, peruse some more. Maybe I'll see you in this video here. I'll definitely see you down in the comments for this one. And on here again next time.